Yes, yes, please.
Canto 2, Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 4, The Process of Creation. Sutta Uvacha, Text 1. Vaiyasake ritivacha sattvanishchayamatmanaha upadarya matim Krishna avtareya satim vyadat.
Hare Krishna. Um, Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Sukadeva Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna.
Next to Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudravina Bandhushu Rajye cha avikale nityam viruda mamatam jaho.
Maharaja Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for the Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom.
Text 3 to 4. Prapacha chemam evartam yanmam prachata sattamaha krishnanubhava shravane shraddadano mahamanaha samstam vijnaya sanyasya कर्मत्रैवर्गिकं च यत् वासुदेवे भगवति आत्मभावं दृढं गतः.
O great sages, the great soul Maharaj Parikshit constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced all sort of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me.
Text 5. Rajovacha Samichinam vacho Brahman Sarvajnasya Tavanagaha Tamo Visiryate Mahyam Harekata Yata Katham.
Maharaja Parikshit said, O learned Brahmanas, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating the topics of the Lord.
Text 6. Bhuya eva vivisami Bhagavanatma Mayaya Yatedam Srijate Vishwam Durvibhavya Madishwaraihi.
I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods.
7. Yata gopayati vibhur yata samyachate punaha yam yam shaktim upashritya purushakti parapuman atmanam kridayam kridam karoti vikaroti cha.
Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player.
Text 8. Nunam bhagavato brahman hareradbhuta karmanaha durvibhavyam yuva bhati kavibinchapi chestitam.
O learned Brahmanas, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them.
Text 9. Yatha gunam suprakriter yugapat vibharti bhuristvayekaha kurvan karmani janmabhihi.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether He alone acts with the mode of material nature or simultaneously expands in many forms or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature.
Next 10. Vichikisthitam etanme bravitu bhagavan yata shabde brahmani nishnataha parasmim cha bhagavan kalu.
Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in the Vedic lectures and self-realized in transcendence, but are also a great devotee of the Lord and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead.
11. Sutavacha ityupamantrito rajna gunanukatane hare rishikesham anusmritya prativaktum prachakrame.
Sutta Goswami said, when Sukadeva Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Sri Krishna, and to reply properly, he spoke thus.
Text 12. Sri Shukavacha Nama Parasmai Purushaya Bhuyase Sadudbhavasthana Nirodhalilaya Grahita Shakritaya Yadehinam Antarbhavaya Anupalakshme Vartmane.
Sukadeva Goswami said, let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who for the creation of the material world accepts the three modes of nature. He is the complete whole residing within the body of everyone, and his ways are inconceivable.
6:13 Bhuyo Nama Sadau Vrajina Vichedasam Asambhavaya Kila Sattvamurtaye Pumsam Punah Parama Vamshash Ashrame Vyavasthitanam Anumrugyas Dasase.
I again offer my respectful obeisance unto the form of complete existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees from all distresses and the destroyers of the further advance in atheistic temperament of the non-devotee demons. For the transcendentalities who are situated in the topmost spiritual perfection, he grants their specific destinations.
Text 14 Namo Namastute Vrishabhaya Sattvatam Vidura Muhuku Yoginam Nirastasam Vyati Shayane Radasa Swadhamini Brahmani Ramsyate Namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto him, who is the associate of the members of the Yadu dynasty, and who is always a problem for the non-devotees. He is the supreme enjoyer of both the material and spiritual worlds, yet he enjoys his own abode in the spiritual sky. There is no one equal to him, because his transcendental opulence is immeasurable.
Text 15 Yat Kirtanam Yat Smaranam Yadikshanam Yadvandanam Yashravanam Yadarhanam Lokasya Sadyo Vidunoti Kalmasham Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto all auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrance, audience, prayers, hearing, and worship can at once cleanse the effects of all sins of the performer.
16 Vichakshana Yacharanopasadanat Sangam Vyadasyontaraatmanaha Vindanti hi Brahma Gatim Gatakshyamas तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः.
Let me offer my respectful obeisance again and again unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, the highly intellectual, simply by surrendering unto his lotus feet, are relieved of all attachments to present and future existences, and without difficulty progress towards spiritual existence.
617. तपस्विनो दानपरा यशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदसुमङ्गलः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विना यदर्पणं तस्मै सुभद्रश्रवसे नमो नमः.
Hare Krishna, I can't see the translation. Thank you. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna again and again, because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of the Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitful results without dedication of such great qualities to the service of the Lord.
618. किरातहुनान्द्रपुलीन्द्रपुल्कषा अभीरशुम्भा यवनाः कासदायः येन्ये च पापा यदपाश्रयाश्रयाः सुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमो नमः.
Kirta Huna Andhra Pulinda Pulkasa Abhira Sumbha Yavana, members of the Khasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
619. स एष आत्मात्मवतां वदीश्वरस्त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः गतव्यलिकैर्अजशङ्करादिभिर्वितर्क्यलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्.
He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions, being so reverse and all and veneration may that supreme absolute be pleased with me.
620. श्रियपतिर्यज्ञपतिप्रजापतिर्धियाम्पतिर्लोकपतिर्धारपतिः पतिर्गतिश्चान्दकवृष्णिसात्वतां प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सात्वतां पतिः.
May Lord Sri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings like Andhaka and Vrisni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me.
621. यदङ्घ्रि अभिध्यानसमाधिदौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति ह तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत् कवयो यथा रुचं समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम्.
It is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna who gives liberation by thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities. The devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. The learned material speculators, however, think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me.
Text 22. प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती वितन्वताजस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि स्वलक्षणा प्रादुर्भूत किलास्यतः समे ऋषीणां वृषभप्रसीदताम्.
May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me.
Text 23. भूतैर्महद्भिरै इमपुरो विभुर्निर्मायश्चेत् यदंशुपुरुषः भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वाचांसि मे.
May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusa incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements.
24. नमः तस्मै भगवते वासुदेवाय वेदसे पपुज्ञानम् अयं सौम्य यन्मुखाम्बुरुहासमम्.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarines, transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord.
Text 25. एतदेवात्मभूराजन् नारदाय विपृच्छते वेदगर्भोऽप्यदात् साक्षात् यदाह हरिरात्मनः.
My dear King Brahmas, the firstborn, on being questioned by Narada, exactly appraised him on his subject as it had been directly spoken by the Lord to his own son, who was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his very birth.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the
Hare Krishna.
opportunity. Please forgive my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please forgive my mistakes as well.
No problem, Mataji. Thank you for the recitations. It was quite nice. So we will start. Let me share my screen. And okay, we will start. Is there anything to? Yeah, thank you. I agree. Very nice recitations. So let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiret Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtaki Yam Pravrajanta Manupe Tamape Takutyam Dvaipayano Virahaka Taraju Ava पुत्रेति तन्मयतयो तरवो विनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि. So we are going to discuss 7th and 8th verse from the 4th chapter of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's start recitation. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So 247. यथा गोपा यति विभुर यथा संक्षयते पुनः याम याम शक्तिम उपाश्रित्य पुरुषक्तिः परः पुमान् आत्मानं क्रीडयन् क्रीडन् करोति विकरोति च. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. Purport. In Katha Upanishad 2-13, the Supreme Lord is described as the chief eternal being amongst all other eternal individual beings, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, and the one Supreme Lord who maintains innumerable other individual living beings, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. So, all living entities, both in the conditioned state and in the liberated state, are maintained by the Almighty Supreme Lord. Such maintenance is effected by the Lord through his different expansions of self and three principal energies, namely internal, external, and marginal energies. The living entities are his marginal energies, and some of them, in the confidence of the Lord, are entrusted with the work of creation also, as are Brahma, Marichi, etc. And the acts of creation are inspired by the Lord unto them. Tene Brahmarada. The external energy Maya is also impregnated with the jivas or conditioned souls. The unconditioned marginal potency acts in the spiritual kingdom, and the Lord, by his different plenary expansions, maintains them in different transcendental relations displayed in the spiritual sky. So, the one Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself in many, Bahusyam, and thus all diversities are in him, and he is in all diversities, although he is nevertheless different from all of them. That is the inconceivable mystic power of the Lord. And as such, everything is simultaneously one with and different from him by his inconceivable potencies. Achintya Bhedavet Tattva. Let's go to the next verse. 248 Srimad Bhagavatam. Nunam Bhagavato Brahman Harer Adbhuta Karmanah Durvibhyavam Ivabhati Kavibhishchapi Cheshtitam. Translation. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. Purport. The acts of the Supreme Lord in the creation of just this one universe appear inconceivably wonderful, and there are innumerable universes, and all of them aggregated together are known as the created material world. And this part of his creation is only a fractional portion of the complete creation. The material world stands as a part only ekam shena sthito jagat. Supposing that the material world is a display of one part of his energy, the remaining three parts consists of Vaikuntha Jagat, or spiritual world, described in the Bhagavad Gita as Madhama or Sanatana Dhama, or the eternal world. We have marked in the previous verse that he creates and again winds up the creation. This action is applicable only in the material world because the other, greater part of his creation, namely the Vaikuntha world, is neither created nor annihilated. Otherwise, the Vaikuntha Dham would not have been called eternal. Lord exists with his Dham, or in other words, with his eternal name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality, which are all a display of his different energies and expansions. The Lord is called Anadi, or having no creator, and Adi, or the origin of all. We think in our own imperfect way that the Lord is also created, but the Vedanta informs us that he is not created. Rather, everything else is created by him. Narayana Paro Vyaktat. Therefore, for the common man, these are all very wonderful matters for consideration. Even for great scholars, they are inconceivable. And thus, such scholars present theories contradictory to one another. Even for the insignificant part of his creation, this particular universe, they have no complete information as to how far this limited space extends and how many stars and planets are there, or the different conditions of those innumerable planets. Modern scientists have insufficient knowledge of all this. Some of them assert that there are 100 million planets scattered all over space. In a news release from Moscow, date 2/21/60, the following piece of knowledge was relayed. Russia's well-known professor of astronomy, Boris Vorontsov Veliaminov, I'm sorry if my pronunciations are not correct, said that there must be an infinite number of planets in the universe inhabited by being endowed with reason. It could be that life similar to that on Earth flourishes on such planets. Doctor of Chemistry Nikolai Zhirov, covering the problem of atmosphere on other planets, pointed out that the organism of Martian, for instance, could very well adapt itself to normal existence with a low body temperature. He said that he felt that the gaseous composition of Martian atmosphere was quite suitable to sustain life of beings which have become adapted to it. This adaptability of an organism to different varieties of planets is described in Brahma Samhita as Vibhuti Bhinnam. That is, each and every one of the innumerable planets within the universe is endowed with a particular type of atmosphere. And the living beings, they are more perfectly advanced in science and psychology because of a better atmosphere. Vibhuti means specific powers, and Bhinnam means variegated. Scientists who are attempting to explore outer space and are trying to reach other planets by mechanical arrangements must know for certain that organisms adapted to the atmosphere of Earth cannot exist in the atmospheres of other planets. Easy journey to other planets. One has to prepare himself, therefore, to be transferred to a different planet after being relieved of the present body. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrunyanti Pitrurataha Bhutani Yanti Bhutecha Yanti Madhya Jinopimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Maharaj Parikshit's statement regarding the workings of the creative energy of the Lord discloses that he knew everything of the process of creation. Why then did he ask Shukdev Goswami for such information? Maharaj Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world, but that much knowledge was not sufficient. He said, therefore, that even greatly learned scholars fail to know about that, even after great effort. The Lord is unlimited, and his activities are also unfathomed. With a limited source of knowledge and with imperfect senses, any living being up to the standard of Brahmaji, the highest perfect living being within the universe, can never imagine knowing about the unlimited. We can know something of the unlimited when it is explained by the unlimited, as has been done by the Lord himself in the unique statements of the Bhagavad Gita. And it can also be known to some extent from realized souls like Shukdev Goswami, who learned it from Vyasadeva, a disciple of Narad. And thus the perfect knowledge can descend by the chain of disciplic succession only, and not by any form of experimental knowledge, old or modern. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Such an instructive purport Srila Prabhupada has written. Very beautiful, amazing purports. So we'll do our invocation prayer and then we'll start our discussions. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Saavadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambita bhujau kanakavadhato sankirtane kapitaro kamalayatakshau Vishwambharau Dijabharau Jugadharmapalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avataro Yantah Pravishya Mama Chamimam Prasuptam Sanjeevayat Akhila Shakti Dharaswadhamna Anyamscha Hastacharana Shravanattvayadin Pranandamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. So we'll recite the verse again. Yatha gopa yati vibhur yatha samyachate punaha yam shaktim upashritya purushaktihi parah puman atmanam kridan karoti vikaroti cha. Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. Wow, amazing verse. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking here that it is such a intricate question and it has so many dimensions. This question itself is going to open up the whole details up to third canto and even to some extent in the fourth canto, because this question and the next one, when Shukdev Goswami starts offering his prayers, Mataji was just reciting those shlokas and reading the translations. So, and then all the later part will start about Leela and basically establishing the tattva, and which is the principle of the supremacy of the Lord, and then the Leela, which is the pastimes of the Lord, which is how that relationship of tattva, which is the supremacy of the Lord, and the pastimes, that's something any devotee can discuss for rest of the eternity. That's like Machitamadgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam dushyanti charamanti. That's the beauty of devotees never get they never get that satisfaction, contentment that yes, I have done it. Means the satisfaction or that pleasure is ever increasing of when we start discussing Krishna Katha, the relationship between Tattva and Leela, the principle of supremacy and the loving relationship. So, as the question comes here, creation of anything is like a game for the Lord, which is such a poetic way Parikshit Maharaj is asking to his spiritual master here. And then the paradox is, in case of us, we have to make efforts to do everything. Nowadays, even to have a peaceful sleep, people have to make special arrangement. Some time back, someone was telling there are some different types of musics, binaural beats, and God knows what it is. So and then some people have to take certain medicines to sleep properly. And whereas in case of the Lord, as a game, as a sport, He's creating everything with so much of perfection. That is such an amazing, such a fascinating thing to even imagine. Our efforts are at various levels: mental, intellectual, social, and obviously physical level. We make efforts, and still those are imperfect. A lot of times there are failures. And nowadays there are motivational speakers because there are so many failures, and it will keep increasing. About this, we need someone to motivate us because of those constant failures. And whereas in case of Lord, there is no failure. Whatever He makes is perfect. And that too, His winding up of all His creation is also perfect. And it is all defined. It is there in the scriptures. It's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. How that destruction happens, how that creation happens, and Lord Brahma explains that, or how this whole creation happens. If we have time today, we'll quickly go through that as well. So, what's the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita Lord talks about the conditioned souls? That Mamaivansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatana Manashashthani Indriyani Prakritisthani Karshati. What he's saying here is conditioned souls wants to lord it over because of the Indriya, the demands of the senses. And hence we have to go through so much of miseries and anxieties and hankering and lamentation and all that. Whereas in case of the Supreme Lord in Krishna, need not have to do any of that. It's all effortless. It's in a sporting spirit as a player. And isn't that something? That itself is we can meditate on this every day. But It's the same food we eat. For example, if 10 of us are sitting for prasadam, as per the situation, our body and everything, we will relish that prasadam in a different way. It's the same prasadam. The effect of that prasadam on everybody's body will be different. It's the same prasadam. And if we look at this thing with little bit of deeper insight, I find that whole thing magical. It's the same creation of the Lord, but it is when the living entity starts interacting with this creation, the results are different. The fragrance of something, what do you call, the oils, the scented oils. If you put it on one person's body, that person, the fragrance will change a little bit. And again, on someone else's body, the fragrance will change. Means, for example, oud or aguru. How that comes, that aguru, when a certain type of fungus gets affected, the tree gets affected by certain type of fungus, then the tree starts emanating or releasing that particular type of scent. And then after drying it and that aguru wood, then the actual oud scent comes out. Isn't that something? Means, if we look at this, everything, how different types of scents, the fragrances and all that Lord has created, I find that incredibly magical. It's fascinating. So let's look at one verse here. Few days back, me and my wife, we were discussing that it's big about this verse, especially that lot of times the person comes and says that why there is a misery in the material world. If Lord is so merciful and loving and caring, why this bad qualities, why the misery, why it is created? And this is the answer actually. While what Lord says, Buddhir jnana sammoha sammoha kshama satyam dama shama sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashaha bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva prithagvidaha. So actually 10.8 the Chatushloki Gita starts, and he is giving the details of the creation just before this. So let's read the translation of what he's saying here. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy, all these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Isn't that why those qualities are created? Because living entity wants to have those qualities, good and bad, and he's merciful enough that he has created the qualities. Okay, you have it, and try, because we are trying to be independent, which is not going to happen, which will never happen. We are eternally dependent on the Lord. But to give that understanding that you can try your own with your own efforts, Lord has created these qualities. And Prabhupada gives very, very beautifully, Prabhupada gives very details in this particular purport here, that although sometimes truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others. And that is the definition of truth. And Lord is giving us the truth here. So it's amazing. And then Prabhupada is giving the details of control of all the senses, and obviously everything comes back to that earlier point from the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Uddareda atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaivaya manobuddhir atmaivaya manobuddhir atmaiva ripuratmanaha. If we controlled mind is our best friend, and uncontrolled mind is the enemy. And then bandhuratmai manastasya atmaiva ripuratmana. That's the next verse. And this is basically Prabhupada is giving that explanation of why this whole creation is for us to facilitate. And then it comes to the point of mode of goodness, and Prabhupada talks about the charity and Brahmajana Titi Brahmana. We have talked about this verse so many times. And it's a beautiful, amazing purport Prabhupada has given. So let's go back to our discussion of verses. Yeah. So what this verse and the purport is telling us here, that the why. Okay, let's step back. And Parikshit Maharaj, as he's an emperor, he's a Raja Rishi. He knows the whole science very properly because he's a pure devotee of the Lord. And still he's asking this question because he wants to bring that point of one of the important verses. Narad Muni speaks to Yudhishthir Maharaj in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is that verse? Tyaktva swadharma charanambujam harer bhajanna pakvotha patet tato yati yatra ko abhadram abhud amushyakim kovartha apto bhajatam swadharmataha. So one should, if someone is doing their day-to-day job very properly, as we were talking a few minutes back about conditioned soul wants to do everything properly, wants to be comfortable in this material world, and then their efforts are at different levels: mental, intellectual, social, and physical, and so on. So if someone makes that planning, does the job properly, earns good amount of money, have a nice house, family, everything, and lives very according to the social norms, very proper, lawful, good life. But if there is no bhakti in that life, if there is no devotion, if there is no gratitude towards the Supreme Lord, then Narad Muni is saying, what's the use of that? When the life will be gone, when your karmic account will become, good karma will become empty, the bad karma will start, and then at the end of life, you have lost everything, and back to the square one, you will start again. Kovartha apto bhajatam swadharmataha. What's the point? That's what he's saying. But that, instead of following that just as a duty diligently, but if taktva swadharma charanambujam harer, if somebody surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, charana ambuja harer bhajanna pakvotha patet tato yadi. Even if that person does not perform the devotional service at the level of perfection, there is no loss, because that person's devotional account is, or the purification has already started. And the first and the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us that this is the this particular verse, Taktva Swadharma, is because the first and second canto is the lotus feet of the Lord, and they form a perfect prelude to the rest of the Bhagavatam by introducing the reader to its key philosophical concepts and prominent characters. These two cantos, they also establish Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Bhakti Yoga as the topmost spiritual path. In first canto, Suta Goswami describes to the sages of Naimisharanya the history of Bhagavatam, the birth and the activities of Maharaj Parikshit, who even chastised Kali, and the exclusive dependence of devotees like Uttara, Pandavas, Kunti, and Bhishma on Lord Krishna, and Bhaktavatsala Krishna's reciprocation with them. And now we have come to the second canto. In the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami describes the supremacy of Krishna Bhakti while presenting various other processes on the Vedic landscape. I think in last few verses, we have seen that about the Ashtanga Yoga and other yogic processes. While presenting various other processes on the Vedic landscape, like demigod worship, meditation on universal form, Virat Rupa, Super Soul, Paramatma, as a part of Ashtanga Yoga. He also explained Chatushloki, 4 seed verses of Bhagavatam, and finally gives the definitions of the 10 topics of Bhagavatam, which will come in 10th and 11th chapter of the second canto. So, so the sporting spirit of a player, let's come to that point. So Lord expands and just inhales and exhales to create and wind up this manifestation, which has innumerable universes. In the towards the end of the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that, "Oh Arjuna, what is the need to explain everything to you? Just by the spark of my splendor, I create, maintain, and destroy innumerable universes like this," or the whole manifestation he is basically talking about. So Mahavishnu, in his Yoga Nidra, who is creating everything perfectly, and he is destroying everything effortlessly as well. So when we sleep, as His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was telling some time back, that when we sleep, we are like vegetable. We don't do anything. There is nothing productive comes out. But whereas in case of Lord, even if he is sleeping, he's creating that and maintaining and destroying everything at the same time, means innumerable universes, partial annihilation, complete annihilation, and then creation and all that. And how that creation happens, as I was saying, Lord Brahma says this in the third canto. He explains that. I think it's not. Lord Brahma doesn't say that. Maitreya Rishi is explaining it to Mahatma Vidur, how Lord Brahma creates this universe and what is this whole process of creation. Those 14 planetary systems, and then different types of living entities, how those bodies are created. That's what I was referring to. So we struggle to maintain everything, but for Krishna, it's just a leela, and that is the sporting spirit. What Parikshit Maharaj is saying here, it's just a pastime, and as he is saying here that about the family, for us to have a family, it's not an easy task. All of us know that. Father and mother have to go through so much of planning and mental, physical efforts and everything. Whereas for the Lord, he just by his glance, Adha Aksha, Aksha means eye, Adha means to look down, Adhoksha, that's what his name is, Adhokshaja. Aja means going beyond. So he just glance goes beyond this wherever he wants to, and that's how the whole material manifestation is created. Isn't that something amazing? It's if we just start meditating on this, I think we can meditate as the one of the acharya from southern part of India. His whole life was just to meditate on the Leela of the Supreme Lord. And he could do that for months and months, sometimes years. He could just meditate on the Leela and the beauty of the Supreme Lord. And it's something amazing. Means just for us to even think of. And here, if we don't do that, then living entity means us, we will meditate on ourselves. How great I am. Proud of so many things, which we should not be, because this particular verse, it is saying that he is the creator of every single quality. He is the creator of everything. So what's there to be proud of? And that's what this verse is. We are discussing about. Let's go to the next verse. Nunam bhagavato brahman harer adbhuta karmana durvibhavyam ivabhati kavibhishchapi cheshtitam. Now, we need to understand here in the context of this particular verse, adbhuta. Adbhut means inconceivable. That's the closest word we can think of in English. Is the greatness of the Lord. Before we delve into relationship and his intimate pastimes, not following this path of understanding the supremacy first, and just trying to understand the Leela of the Lord, will create serious misunderstanding. And that is one of the reasons, initially when I read Bhagavad Gita, and I was always told that 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is the most important chapter. It's the sandwich analogy, and all of you must have heard that. But in the beginning of the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that if we go back to 10th chapter, so he's saying that the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." So what does it mean? If 9th chapter is so important, so it's the most important chapter, then why this statement here? Then why Lord is saying that I'm giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained? And I was a bit bewildered, but later on, as we start meditating, we realize that from the 7th chapter to 9th chapter, Lord is saying that yes, surrender unto me. He's giving the importance of bhakti. Why surrendering unto him is the most important mission for every human being. Why he says that? But unless and until that principle of tattva, that supremacy is established, the person will get bewildered. If the example of that we can say is, if there is one very big person, very intellectual, very rich, and very powerful personality, and if we don't know what is the magnanimity, what is the power, what is the vibhuti of that person, what is that opulences Lord has shared with that person? If we don't know, and if that person is saying that, no, come to me, I will take care of it, we won't take it seriously. But 10th chapter is establishing the principle of supremacy. And that's why this statement is here. That this doesn't mean the ninth chapter is less important. It is very important. But to understand that importance of the ninth from seventh chapter onwards till ninth chapter, we need to understand the basic principle of this tattva, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whole of 10th chapter. Then that's the reason that is the Chatushloki Gita is there. And then towards the end, Lord is establishing the principle of his supremacy. And then if we go back to the ninth chapter, we understand that yes, Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitramidam Uttamam. That is the key, that yes, enviousness, if it is there in our heart towards the Supreme Lord, towards our eternal Father, we are not going to understand the Rajavidya Rajaguyam, the most confidential knowledge. And that's the principle. Now, Maharaj Parikshit is asking this question. There is a very important reason behind it. Faithfully hearing the words of Shukadeva Goswami, where he's going to establish the supremacy of the Lord, he will also, because he's a pure devotee of the Lord, very beloved devotee of the Lord. Every devotee is a beloved devotee. We should, but Shukadeva Goswami is very merciful. He will bestow his mercy and the mercy of our acharyas who are repeating his words will be on us. And that is the reason Parikshit Maharaj is asking this very, very important question of understanding or gaining the knowledge of the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of these two interactions of Tattva and Leela, which is Krishna's loving relationship, is Leela, that is more important but in this material world, which is a perverted reflection. Urdhvamula Madhashakam, 15th chapter starts with that, of the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It is highly likely that we will misunderstand that importance of loving relationship with the Lord. And that's the reason this establishment of Tattva is so crucial. Now, we have heard in many lectures that Brajavasis, or the Nanda Maharaj or Yashodamai and all that, all the great devotees of the Lord, it is said that they don't know that Krishna is God. Of course they know. They're the pure devotees of the Lord. But that thickness of that love, the layer of that love, of the relationship, as it makes that godhood of the Lord a secondary principle. And that's the most important point, that even if that principle of supremacy is there, even more important principle than that is Krishna's loving relationship with his living entities. And that is the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us, that establishment of this principle, and then Sthana Bharana Poshana and all those all the what do you call, qualities of Srimad Bhagavatam, which will get revealed in the later cantos. So this, where it gets established, and that's why the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam starts, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayad Itarataschaर्थeshva Abhijnaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yat Suryaha. So that's where the establishment of the Chaitya Guru, that Lord Brahma received that knowledge within his heart. Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yat Suryaha Tejo Varimrutam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. That's that's basically a Gayatri mantra. Every day we can meditate and chant on this Gayatri mantra, and then Dharma Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. So again, it comes back to the beginning of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that yes, if you're nirmatsara, if you're non-envious, then only you will understand that relationship that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Jivere Swarup hoy Krishna Nityadas. So what this means is this knowledge can't be understood by experiments and studies. The qualification has to be there that the mercy of the Lord, and from our side, the efforts of purification of Nirmatsaranam Satam, non-enviousness, has to be there constantly. And here the intention of Maharaj Parikshit is to ask these questions to Srila Shukadeva Goswami, is to bring the supreme auspiciousness of that transcendental atmosphere and invoke that loving relationship in our heart. Hence, Maharaj Parikshit is using the words like Adbhuta Karamanaha. If we go back here, no, not this one, here, yeah. Harer Adbhuta Karamanaha. Yeah. So Lord's Adbhuta. Adbhut means it's something which we can't even think of, which we can't even imagine. So that's what Parikshit Maharaj is referring to here. How to do that means Atah Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyaye. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 136th verse from the 7th chapter, 17th chapter. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying this, that na bhavet grahyam indriyaye sevam mukhe hi jubvado swayam eva spuratyada. The material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Nama Guna Rupa Lila. When a conditioned soul is awakened in Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the holy name and tastes the remnants of Lord's food, then the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is, who that Supreme Lord really is. Hearing and chanting Krishna's name does not rise fear. There is no God of fearing concept in our sampradaya, in this philosophy. God is the supreme loving personality, and it will give rise to love and servitude. And that's what the Atah Sri Krishna Namadi, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing here. So the dry knowledge of so-called scholars without that loving relationship, Mahaprabhu says it's like a sound of a crow, which is not pleasing at all in any way. So importance of that establishment of a loving relationship with the Tattva and the Leela is so crucial, is so important. And as Prabhupada says about the science, that this is the true science. What that means, once Prabhupada was asked that, what do you mean by this true science? And Prabhupada gave a very beautiful explanation of that. He says that the true science is to observe, hypothesize, practice, and understand. And that's what our philosophy is. And then he says, currently, the science is mainly based on just to observe, speculate, and interpret. And that's why this leads to confusion, and hence we come across many contradictory statements all the time. Example, sometime back, this modern science was saying, oh no, ghat or ghee is bad for health. Coconut oil is bad for health. They will come up with different types of terminologies, different types of cholesterol and all. And today there is big research, and there is a lot of this scientific studies are saying, no, ghee is best, coconut oil is very good. That is the very simple example of how contradictory statements come about. I'm a physicist by qualification or by my education, and I'm quite aware of how many contradictions physics has come up with in last maybe 50 or 100 years. And as Prabhupada says that it all comes because of the atheism and the envy in the heart. Because His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj says that when there is a controller mentality at different levels, that is nothing but the manifestation of an envy. So for all conditioned souls, constantly reading Tattva is very crucial. And that's why going back to basics of Bhagavad Gita and then simultaneously studying Srimad Bhagavatam is very important. For that, we can say Srila Prabhupada always, he was giving in all his lectures, if we keep listening to, he gives us the clear direction of how to progress on this path of Krishna consciousness by keeping in mind that Aishwarya Bhav, that supremacy of the Lord, we have to keep that as the basis and not getting into any kind of speculation or sahajiya or something similar type of mentality. And that's the reason he constantly emphasizes the need of establishment of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he gives the details of the Leela in that particular context. So I think that's what I thought of talking something on these two verses. Let me stop here. Are there any questions or comments? No questions, no comments? Thank you. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for nice class. As you said, the senses, you have to control the senses. And if we don't use the senses in the service of the Lord, we have to engage the senses in the material energy, which is Maya. And then what happens? We get more and more entangled. And we go back to square one, as you said. So best thing is to do. So I was giving a class similar to this one this morning. That's why my conclusion was in this material world, best thing to do is just to Shravanam Kirtanam. Only these two. Listen and then chant. Chant the holy name, which is the best thing for the age of Kali. In this way, we are engaging the senses to the lotus feet of the Lord and not to Maya. And my Guru Maharaj used to say, this human form of life is for self-realization, not for sense gratification. So this is what he used to say. So thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Nice explanation on these verses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So if there are no other comments or questions, then we will stop here. Thank you.
Prayagraj, Prabhu. Thank you
Hare
very
Krishna,
much for your wonderful class. You got so much knowledge and you have so much understanding to explain the two verses. Quite a lot inside the purport and the verse itself. Srila Prabhupada's absolute knowledge and your understanding of the knowledge and explaining in a way, connecting with all the verses. It was really wonderful to hear and
Thank you.
a lot to contemplate within ourselves. So how we can improve ourselves through this wonderful knowledge. I mean, Parikshit Maharaj is a pure devotee, so he wants to invoke that love of Krishna within ourselves and how he very wonderfully asked the question to have the answer from Shukadev Goswami. So we need to go over and over again, and so skillfully Srila Prabhupada is helping us to understand what they are trying to say to us who are not knowledgeable at all, and so it's amazing. I appreciate Srila Prabhupada more You know, how knowledgeable. I think it's only pure devotee can understand this.
Definitely, definitely. And
Pure,
this,
we wouldn't understand unless Srila Prabhupada, written all these explanation for us. So we are so. I was listening today this evening in a university. Srila Prabhupada was giving lecture, and how he kind of demands so wonderfully, and everybody appreciate his knowledge.
yeah.
And they were sort of clapping what Srila Prabhupada is saying. You just do this, It's just so wonderful, so wonderful.
Yeah,
Whatever Srila Prabhupada said is because he is a pure devotee. He has no other motive,
absolutely, absolutely.
no other motive than helping us to understand who we are and how we can be connected to elevate our consciousness to the
Yeah,
highest level. To get out of this material world and go to spiritual world. This is his complete, kind.
yeah, definitely.
He is just, more I hear of Srila Prabhupada explaining, it's just absolutely wonderful. We are very, very fortunate to have
Yeah,
Srila.
we are. In my childhood, I used to listen to one song, you can say bhajan. It's actually a Virahani type of composition called. It's 1,000 years back. It was composed by one saint, and he says that Ekatattva nama dridhadhari mana harisi karuna yeila tuji. It's in Marathi, but what the meaning is, there is only one principle that mind should firmly hold on to, and that is the holy name of the Lord. Harisi karuna yeila tuji. And that mind will hold on to that basic principle of holy name in this Kali Yuga. Lord will be compassionate, karuna. He will look at you compassionately and he will bestow his mercy upon you. And then he says, Te nama sopere Ramakrishna Govinda, and so on. But when Prabhupada explains about the importance of holy name, and when he brings that whole perspective of Yuga Dharma and everything, now that when I go back and when I listen to the same composition again, the appreciation has gone 1,000 times. It's many folds. Otherwise it would have been just a song, and then maybe because of that music I would have been singing that sometime. But it's Srila Prabhupada he's like, sometimes I feel like he's like a Shukdev Goswami.
Yeah.
He brings that auspiciousness, and Sunday morning when I do my service at 5 o'clock, we start Srila Prabhupada's lectures and it changes the atmosphere completely. It's
Yes.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Purify our heart.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Hare-
you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
the translation
Yeah.
states, I'm not very clear about who is addressing. If it's inconceivable to these learned brahmanas, what chance have we got?
Oh, okay. Mataji, that is a qualification in itself, actually. What you said is because this morning somebody sent me the clip from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and he has that his special flavor of very beautiful humor, and he says that the qualification to enter the Vaikuntha Lok is 1/10,000th tip of the hair. That's how small we are, and we should become that small. he's not saying in a physical sense, but he's saying we should understand how insignificant we are, and that humility will bestow the mercy of the Lord. If and your point is very important. If all the learned brahmanas are there, then what's the chance for us? But yes, in the Kali Yuga, if we are trying to follow the footstep of Acharya, if we are trying to follow the basic principle of humility and then trying to perform the sadhana, our bhakti, obviously at some point of time, as that saint is saying, Harisi Karuna Yeila Tuji, Lord will be compassionate and he will bestow his mercy. So as Srila Rupa Goswami says that we have to be optimistic, because if we are pessimistic, we are atheist. I'm not saying that in particular your context. I'm just giving it as a statement from our Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So yes, there is a hope, Mataji.
Because today I had a thought which was very scary, to be reborn in this world. The world is in such a state and is promised to get worse. So what kind of a life or situation we will arrive in to be reborn in this material world? It's so scary, isn't it?
We will leave it to the Lord. Yatha vidadhatu lampato matrana tustu sevana paraha. Whatever your desire is, please let me be engaged in your service. That should be our prayer.
Yeah.
So
Well, the good thing is that you don't remember, you don't know what you were before,
yes.
where you know, often where you came from, because unless you're gifted enough to take that forward the next life.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I also heard that Bhakti Chera Maharaj's word, that at the end he said, to enter into the spiritual world is very, very, very small space, and so
Yeah.
we are that small,
Yeah.
1,000 of the tip of the
Amazing clip.
hair. Yes.
Very beautiful clip.
Actually, that is our position. So
Yes.
it was
Okay.
very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa
Sindhu Bhavevacha Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavam
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Great.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna. Hari Bol, everybody.